Morning all, thank you for coming to sunny Weston-super-Mare. As I said to Emma, I'm hoping maybe potentially to get to see the sea today on my maybe 11th visit to Weston. It's always in Wales or something. So welcome to the meeting. We have now started videoing. I have some apologies for absence. Councillors Eddy, Hayward, Moss and Murphy. Councillors Hardy and Sood are hopefully very close by. They went to the fire station unfortunately, but they're on their way now. Any other apologies? No. Brilliant. For the emergency evacuation procedures, item 2, I shall pass over to the ACFO.
Thank you, Chair. So there is no alarm planned for today, but should the alarm sound, please meet at Palmer's Row, and you can get there by exiting the door behind me, turning right and exiting the white door at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. We don't have any declarations of interest. Are there any on the day? No. Brilliant. We have no public access statement, which is also nice. So we'll move on to Chair's business. Sorry, yes, there's no introductions on here. I've just realised. Thank you. There is introductions on here, and they're just a little bit further down. I've already welcomed you all to the meeting, and this Policy and Resources meeting for the video is taking place at 32 Waterloo Street, Weston-super-Mare, and we are recording the meeting for the public to view on our YouTube channel. So I will get members to introduce themselves. I'm Councillor Paul Goggin from Bristol City Council, representing Hartcliffe and Withywood Ward, and I'll go to my left, which is actually straight across to Robert.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm Robert Payne, Councillor for Weston-super-Mare Central on North Somerset Council.
Councillor Tom Renhard, Councillor for Horfield Ward in Bristol.
Dan Thomas, Councillor for Congsby and Puxton on North Somerset Council.
Annie Townsend, Councillor for Central Ward in Bristol.
Fabulous, thank you all. And I will now ask the officers present to introduce themselves, starting with the clerk.
Good morning everyone, Zoe Coombs, Clerk and Monitoring Officer.
Good morning everyone, Richard Welch, Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
Good morning, Mandy Peskett, Collaboration Manager.
Morning everyone, I'm Ian Potter, I'm the Continuous Improvement Manager.
Good morning, I'm Patrick Hollins, Head of Estates.
Morning, Louisa Roger, Culture Change Implementation Lead.
Hi, Tanya Nathan, Head of Procurement.
Good morning, Lee Rogers, Efficiencies and Savings.
Morning, Emma Bowen, Democratic Services.
Good morning all, Paula Lyons, Assistant Chief Fire Officer, and just to mention you will see at the table a space for Head of Finance Claire Bentley, who will be joining us as soon as possible.
Thank you, and I'll just wait for a second. We've got 2 arrivals, and well actually I'll pass to the clerk first for a small announcement.
Thank you. So it's just a reminder in terms of our commitment to inclusivity and accessibility. I just ask everybody to remember please that I'm deaf, and I have put out my Roger table mics which will assist me during the meeting, but would ask please that when you are speaking that if possible you look towards me and that you avoid covering your mouths when you speak, and that you speak clearly and normally. No need to shout, no need to talk particularly quickly or slowly, but that would be very much of assistance to me and to anyone else who may be deaf or hard of hearing in the room. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Zoe. I'll go to the councillors that have just arrived to maybe get them to introduce themselves. I'll start with Raj because Ron's still standing up.
Councillor Ron Hardy from Emerson's Green in South Gloucester. Apologies for being late. It's the parking in Weston-super-Mare.
No problems at all. I think you probably need to speak to somebody from the council down here about that. Apologies, I'm being mischievous. Okay, on to something a little bit more serious, unfortunately. In the early hours of Boxing Day, Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue attended a person's reported house fire in Stroud. This was a tragic incident resulting in the loss of a mother and her 2 children. Avon Fire and Rescue were asked by Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue to provide support at the incident in the form of urban search and rescue resources. Due to the instability of the property, the specialist teams were required to support the property. Crews from Hicksgate supported Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue over a period of 6 days. Crews worked tirelessly. All watches across the station attended the incident, working long days in very difficult conditions to ensure safety at the incident, while the deceased were assessed and ultimately removed from the property. Despite a tragic loss, this is a true example of the admirable work our firefighters carry out on a daily basis, and I would like to pass our sincere thanks to all the crews and officers involved in this difficult incident and those in control organising our response, and I hope they are accessing the welfare support that is available to them. So on to some housekeeping. Please ensure your phones are switched off or at least on silent. When you are speaking, can you please use your microphones, and when you finish speaking, can you please turn them off? Voting today will take place using a show of hands. I'll ask for any votes against, any abstentions, and then finally any votes for. So moving on to the actual business, agenda item 6 is the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the PRC, the Policy and Resources Committee, held on the 1st of October 2025. I'd also like to, if we can, deal with the confidential minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the PRC held on the 10th of September 2025, and also the confidential minutes of the Policy and Resources Stage 2 Internal Dispute Resolution Procedure held on the 1st of October 2025. First off, I'll just ask, does anybody have an objection to us dealing with all of these in one, which will mean we won't have to go into exempt at the end? No? Well, that's brilliant. So I will propose that they are a fair and accurate record of what took place. Can I have a seconder? Thank you very much. Any votes against? Any abstentions? And all votes in favour. Thank you very much. I will sign those and pass them to the clerk. So we've got a bit of shuffling around with the items today for a variety of reasons. So please note that item 9 is now going to take place, and that will allow Mandy to get away to another meeting. And we will go on to agenda item 7 after that. So we shall move on to the approval of the collaboration strategy, and Mandy is presenting on this one.
Thank you for that change to your schedule today. Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed collaboration strategy included as Appendix 1 to my report. Today I'm seeking your approval for the new strategy so it can be published and implemented service-wide. Our previous strategy, covering the term 2021 to 26, is now coming to an end, and a refreshed approach is essential to ensure our collaboration work reflects our current position, emerging priorities, and the expectations placed upon us. Collaboration remains vital in supporting Avon Fire to achieve our mission of improving public safety through prevention, protection, response and resilience. And this updated strategy provides a clear and accountable approach to how we'll work with emergency services, public sector partners and community organisations. It offers a consistent framework for delivering and evaluating joint initiatives, a defined governance model with clear roles and responsibilities, transparent decision-making and reporting arrangements, and assurance that collaboration activity aligns with statutory requirements and with our community risk management plan. Crucially, it includes a strengthened evaluation model that measures performance and ensures collaboration delivers demonstrable benefits for our communities and for our service. To ensure our efforts are focused and risk-aligned, the strategy identifies 7 priority areas of collaboration, covering response resilience and emergency planning, training, learning and development, shared communications, data, functions and infrastructure, shared estates, fleet and equipment, procurement, prevention and protection, and finally, climate change. In summary, approval of this strategy will ensure all collaboration is aligned, evidence-based, compliant with statutory requirements, and strengthens our ability to manage risk and improve outcomes for our community. The committee is therefore asked to scrutinise and approve the collaboration strategy for 2026-28, ready for publication. Chair, members, thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Mandy. And obviously, what I was saying about the collaboration with the Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue is an example of this collaboration strategy. And I believe there was an exercise within the last couple of months as well that involved the police and the fire and everything else.
I'm not familiar with that, but colleagues in the room
Of course.
might be familiar.
I will open the floor to questions. Raj.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for such a wonderful report. It's quite informative and makes me a good study of it. But I like to highlight here, I like this, prevention, protection, response, and resilience. And you work around this, I can understand that. But can I highlight one gap, I think, in my opinion, because I've been a parish councillor since 2015, and my parish, I've never seen anybody from the fire authority. I mean, do you think the collaboration is needs between the different organizations only, not on a, resident basis, basically? We should have some sort of a direct interaction with them on a parish level, where I think once in a year, somebody from fire can attend those meetings and explain them, for example, importance of fire alarms in a house, or something like that, So I'd like to highlight that gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Raj.
Thank you. That's something we will...
Rich.
Thank you for that, Councillor. If you'd like to make contact with the local station manager, then we can certainly arrange for a station manager to have a relationship with the parish council, and that should be a matter of course. But if it isn't happening in your parish, then please do let us know, and I can make arrangements for that.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Thanks, Raj, and I think that goes for anyone else as well. If you do have anywhere on a lower level than the council, if you like, that would like one of these visits, we would arrange it. Even just to get across the message, for example, that we fit free smoke alarms to people, and not just vulnerable people, but anybody who asks. We can go along and do a fire safety visit. And it's important that we, the more we can get that message out there, the better it will be. Robert.
Is that on? Yeah. Thank you. I think it all looks great. It seems to have principles which are ongoing, which should be ongoing. So I was wondering why the strategy is for such a short period of 2 years, because I'm going to have to do another one in 2008, I suppose. So it just seems a bit of a short period for it.
It's entirely to bring it in line with our community risk management plan. The current plan is dated till 2028, so that's the only reason.
And how long will it be for after 2028? Is that for a longer period?
It will be for a longer period, yes.
Thanks, Robert. Do we have any other questions? Ron.
Just
got one really, and I'm not even sure if it's part of this report. But as far as voluntary agencies are concerned, does this report define how we interact with the voluntary agencies, such as I think it's SVGA, Somerset voluntary agencies? There's regular meetings of the voluntary agencies, you know, people like Street Pastors, etc., and Raynet indeed, which is my particular interest. And I wonder if there's a collaboration goes on with the fire service as well between those voluntary agencies, and if it should be in this report.
That's certainly something I can liaise with our prevention team to look at, and I can get a response back to you once I've...
Yeah, the various councils have certainly got officers. Unfortunately, I don't know how South Gloucester do it because it's not in my area for Raynet, but I do know how Somerset deals with things, and Bristol City as well. And there are responsible people there that are liaising with the voluntary agencies, and it would seem prudent that they should be working together because they can offer quite a lot, and offer quite a lot to the fire service as well.
Okay, thank you.
I think, again, along with Raj, this highlights the fact that we can filter down the information to our colleagues at our various councils, and if there are any gaps in us visiting as a fire service, then we will arrange that. We just obviously need to know about these places, but do please feel free to feed back.
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on prevention and protection, I sit on health and wellbeing boards in North Somerset, and we met yesterday, and we have the pleasure of Steve Quinton, who also sits on that board, who's the area manager. Correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but area manager for prevention and protection, and we obviously sit on that board with lots of different partner organisations as well, and how useful it is to have Steve in the room and the things he picks up differently. There's something we're going to take away about prevention for falls in the home as well, which is something we're going to pick up from that meeting because that came up on the agenda. So it's how useful just to have these members from the Fire and Rescue Service in the room, because it's vital for that kind of cross-pollination, to use a horrible term. Sorry. Thank you.
No, yeah, again, thank you very much. And you mentioned about falls, and obviously that's not something that people think that the fire service would respond to, but often we are the service that gets there first and is able to help. Are there any other questions for Mandy? No? Well, we've just been asked to scrutinise this report, and if there's no further questions, I will take that as done. And thank you, Mandy, if you need to shoot off. Okay, now just got to get the order right here. We're doing that one now.
That was the
collaboration. Yeah. No, we're back to.
Yeah, that was the collaboration.
Yeah.
Needs approval.
Oh, sorry. Scrutinise and approve. Sorry, that's my second mistake already of the morning. We do actually need to have a vote on this. So I will propose that we approve the collaboration strategy for 2026 to 2028. Can I have a seconder, please? Raj, thank you very much. Any votes against? Any abstentions? And all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we're going to this one now.
Gender pay gap.
So now we have agenda item 7, which is agenda pay gap and ethnic pay gap reporting, snapshot date of 31st of March 2025, which Assistant Chief Fire Officer Paula Lyons will present.
Thank you, Chair. So this report starts at page 23. You may have seen previously that the Head of People Services, Alison Short, was meant to present this paper. Unfortunately, she's not available, so I will present, and if there is anything we feel we can't give you the detail on, happy to take those questions away and I'll get straight back to you. So starting on page 23, as a high-level summary, this is the gender pay gap and ethnicity pay gap for the most recent reporting period, and that is the snapshot date of the 31st of March 2025. You will see that the gender and ethnicity pay gaps highlight that both are primarily influenced by workforce composition rather than unequal pay for equal work. So if I draw your attention to point 2, recommendations, the committee is asked to scrutinise the attached gender and ethnicity pay gap report and consider findings. And you'll note that point B is approve the report for publication. However, I'd like to propose an amend to that because we have been made aware there are a couple of grammatical errors in the report, so it would just be subject to amending those grammatical errors that we would then publish if everyone would be agreeable to that. So, taking your attention to point 3 and background on page 24. So, as a public sector employer with more than 250 staff, by law we are required to publish the gender pay gap information, and that is under the Equalities Act 2010. You'll see that the ethnicity pay gap reporting is currently voluntary. However, we do choose to do that as it is good practice. So going to 5.3, where you'll find the key findings. Just to reiterate, we found that primarily the gaps were influenced by workforce composition rather than unequal pay. Now that's because women make up 22.28% of the workforce. But if you start looking at this in terms of quartiles and percentiles, you'll see that the most represented of women are in the lowest paid quartile, and the least represented are in the middle quartiles. And that's because it's where a lot of our operational roles sit, which is predominantly male. However, in the highest paid quartile, women account for 29.3%. Moving to 5.5. For ethnicity, you'll see that white British 83.4%, with ethnic minority groups representing only 2.8%, and white minority ethnic employees are currently at 2.1% within the workforce. Now, just to highlight within that, you'll see that 11.7% of the staff have not declared ethnicity, so that we can't be completely sure of the accuracy of some of the analysis. The mean hourly rate shows a gap that white British employees earn £18.87 compared to £18.42 for minority groups. Moving to 5.6, you'll see that the gender and ethnicity pay gaps reflect structural patterns in the workforce, and we propose that in addressing these gaps, we look at improving representation in higher paid and operational roles, increasing declaration rates of ethnicity data, and supporting career progression of underrepresented groups. At point 6 for risks, you'll see no identified operational, financial or reputational risks, and at point 7, legal, as discussed, this aligns with the Equalities Act, most notably the Gender Pay Information Regulations 2017. So just to reiterate recommendations, committee is asked to scrutinise the attached gender and ethnicity pay gap report, which you will see in your pack, and subject to the approval of the amendment of grammatical errors, approve the report for publication. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paula, for presenting on behalf of Ali. Obviously, it's not about the pay gap per se, but our representation for non-white ethnic communities in the service is obviously quite low. It's something we're always looking to improve on. For example, I was at a Sudanese fundraising event last week. Sorry, time escapes me. And I'm hoping to be able to get a fire engine and crew along to an Eid celebration where there will be several hundred people present, and get their kids and young adults shown around the fire engines and stuff, to try and show them that this is a career, obviously, for them as much as anyone else. Anyway, I will pass on for questions now. Tom.
Thank you for the report. It's really helpful. I think the piece I'm interested in is that sort of the forward look, and how we continue to improve this. So I was interested if you could say a bit more about career progression that's referenced in the report. What are the particular initiatives that are in place? I know we kind of talked a bit about it before, but also what's working well and what hasn't been working well. And are there any particular initiatives, sort of particularly thinking about non-white firefighters, where we've clearly got still a significant gap that we're focused on? Because I think it's really important that communities see themselves reflected in public services. So, are we being quite targeted in where we're doing that engagement work, and with those organisations as well that have got access as well and reach in a way that perhaps parts of the fire service may not?
So I can probably come back to you with some more detail, but I just know some of the things that are happening at the moment is we're creating a recruitment strategy. We already work with SARI, Stand Against Racism and Inequality, to work with them, and we also work with Bristol Women's Voice, and we're also corporate members of Women in the Fire Service. So we do seek advice from them. We seek advice from other fire and rescue services as to best practice. And what you will note is from our last HMI inspection, also His Majesty's Inspectorate inspection, one of the things we put in place is networks now, and that is helping us to understand some of the issues in the organisation and greater engage with our communities as well, because it's more focused. So that's work that we're building on currently. I think there is something about representation, and we are trying to engage in our communities more. I'd like to think that representation is in the service is improving. There's something about see it and be it. So role modelling. We have coaching and mentoring in the service as well, which people are engaging in. We can also engage with wider coaching and mentoring throughout the sector. I am just looking to my colleague over here if you want to add anything to that, Rich, but we can certainly get back to you with some more detailed information around that recruitment strategy if that's helpful.
Thanks, Boy. Just a bit more information that we have run our Leadership Academy, which finished in the last year, and on that we had 6 candidates, 4 of which were female, 2 were from underrepresented groups, and we've just recently advertised for the executive leadership programme, which is run by the National Fire Chiefs Council, and we've had 75% of applicants are female, and they're all going through to the next stage. So we are sort of actively sort of trying to promote that side of it.
Sorry. Annie. Councillor, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd be really interested in sort of more detailed data about sort of the makeup of the different groups, not just white and everybody else. Probably not necessarily for this report because it's not detailed enough, and I understand there's white European mixed in with minority ethnic within it, but there is a move to change terminology to be global majority rather than ethnic minority, and I'd like to see that reflected. Because there's this, and as part of that, more detailed breakdown of the different ethnic groups that are members of the service, because I think the challenges that different ethnic groups and different backgrounds have will take a range of approaches to rectify. And then similarly with the recruitment process, I'd be really interested in knowing the breakdown of different groups applying or coming to a recruitment day, then applying and getting through to different stages, because there's other boards that I'm on where they've congratulated themselves that they have a huge amount of diverse groups applying, and yet at the very end it's still white men that actually get through. So why? So I'd be really interested in seeing that that progression and having more detailed data about different groups, and also then as a result what actions are going to be taken to address that.
Thanks, Annie. That's a very good point. I don't know, Paula?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely valid points, and I know we are starting to collate that data, although it's slightly immature because we don't have some historical data, but that breakdown has been collected, so we can look at that. What I do know as well is we now have the People Services dashboard, and that is starting to build the data, but what we need to work on is encouraging people to then sometimes disclose some of the data so we can use it more effectively. But I thank you for the advice on the terminology, and if I could catch up with you after this, I'm really interested, and I can take that back to the Head of People Services and we look to incorporate that.
Thanks, Paula. Robert?
Yes, I think just reading the report, it would be easier or helpful if when we got these figures for percentages of different ethnicities, if we had a comparison figure to what the actual percentages in the community as a whole. I think you can obtain those figures, but it would just make the report easier to read. And also, where you've got the actual gap percentages, I would be interested to see some information about how that compares to comparable organisations or other fire services maybe, or something like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally understand your point, and like I say, it's not in this report, but I did take a quick look before today, just to see if there were any comparables. And whilst it's not in the detail, I looked up the Fire and Rescue Services workforce and pension statistics in England, to maybe just to give it a high-level comparison. As of the 31st of March 2023, 8.7% of firefighters were women, and 8.0% stated an ethnicity from a minority. What it doesn't do is the breakdown of on-call, whole-time, and some of it's based around full-time equivalents, but some high-level statistics. And whilst this isn't wholly up to date, just because I know this is publicly accessible, so I wouldn't be sharing anything that wasn't currently. In terms of our last HMI report, which was for 23-25, but dated as of the 31st of March 2022, we were showing as whole-time firefighters at 70.9% compared to 65.2% in England, with 6.9% as women and 19.5% compared of the whole workforce as women in Avon. And then we had ethnic minority as 4.8% of firefighters and 5.3% of the workforce. So I would imagine a slight improvement on that, hopefully. There is, but that was our latest published statistics on the HMI report.
Thanks, Paula. Annie?
Thanks. A slight mission creep, but it'll be also interesting to see the data if you collect it, or for it to be collected if you don't, around disability and neurodivergence as well, because that's another element which I imagine are possibly underrepresented at the higher income points as well, and it would be good to make it clear that the fire service is an inclusive or disability inclusive employer, or is attempting to be.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, and I think again, as councillors, we can play a role in this. As a former Lord Mayor, I've got lots of links with various faith groups in Bristol, and I am trying to encourage sort of open day events, if you like, to show people, as I said earlier, that people from Global Majority, are more than welcome in the service and represented. I know that historically public sector employers have found this a problem, from the fire services to the forces, the police services as well. So maybe we do need to look at some kind of benchmarking as suggested, to see how we are doing. And it's one of those things where the more recruitment that we can get from the Global Majority, the more people from within those communities will see role models that look like themselves, and therefore hopefully sign up to apply. Anyway, thank you for presenting that report, Paula. I know it wasn't yours necessarily. we've been asked to scrutinise it, but we also need to approve it for publication. Oh, sorry, Raj.
Thank you, Chair. It's very interesting to hear the different opinions on the report. Again, I will say thanks to the people who prepared this report. It's wonderful. But I've got some questions. When we say the gender pay gap and ethnicity pay gap exist these days, can we really justify it on the basis that it's on a workforce composition and rather than an unequal pay for equal work? Can you please, what steps we can take actually to achieve the equality? That's first question. And the second thing, it says no financial implications, means we have to change our process and procedures rather than anything in occurring a major cost money-wise. That's what I make of it. And another thing, we have identified that we need to sort this out. On ethnic backgrounds, I would say, I think we need to take this proposal, what we got, we can offer to the different communities. And if we got few heroes from them, we need to highlight them. If these people can achieve, the other can achieve. I think there is a sort of a layback attitude in certain communities, I can see. I mean, until otherwise, my 2 kids went through MOD, working for MOD. I wasn't aware so much opportunity was available for, but that need to be taken back to the different communities at different levels, I would say. As you said, you got no different groups, So we need to spread our word, what's on offer. And from there, I think we can create, if we can build up few people, we can highlight them. If these people can achieve it, the other can do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. That's a good point. Paula, did you want to come back on that?
Just really say absolutely acknowledge your points, and we do try and engage with some of our firefighters in particular because they can build the connections and relationships, and there is that see it and be it. So absolutely understand your points, and I probably can't give the detail at the moment beyond the high level of the report. But we do know we need to improve representation, which we will work to do. But I'm happy to catch up with you outside if that's easier.
I think this will give a sense of a belonging to those communities, That make more responsible citizens, I think, if we can achieve that. Thank you.
Absolutely. If we could catch up outside and probably with our head of people services as well, might be easier. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks all. So we're now going to ask to approve the report for publication. So I propose that we do so. Can I have a seconder? Robert, thank you very much. Any votes against? Any abstentions? And all those in favour? Okay, we have approved that for publication. Thank you. So now we will move to the approval of the estates strategy, and Patrick will be presenting on this one. Thank you.
Good morning. So I'm here today to talk about the new estate strategy. Members may be aware that the estate strategy has been under review since just before my arrival with the service in 2023. The current strategy had a run time between 2020 and 2030. Obviously a lot occurred since 2020, since it was written. And also we've moved into a space where we're looking at the CRMP position as well, rather than service strategy. So what the proposed strategy aims to do is to set the tone for that period until our current CRMP comes to an end, and then from that point onwards the estate strategy will roughly align with the CRMP run times. I've allowed myself a little bit more time to write a new strategy and said that this one will run to 2029 with the new CRMP coming into play in 2028. So the strategy, just to sort of make an important differentiation, the strategy doesn't seek to confirm exactly what we'll be doing in terms of the likes of capital investment during that period of time. It's more about setting the basis for our decision making and the tone and our approach to the work that we do. So it very much focuses on setting the foundations for the future, and this next period of time until the end of this strategy is about gathering out all the information that we need building those foundations, reviewing the team and matching our resource to the risk that we've got within the estates team, and enabling us effectively to put in place our next strategy, which will then sort of take more action and focus us into the future as well. So it sets out there that our kind of key principles that we'll be considering during any decision making is around risk first, so making sure that we are triaging requests that come in and focusing on those ones that actually safeguard us against risk first. We're also looking at what I've called right place, right space, so again matching the resources that we have available to the needs of the organisation, and making sure that because the services is about more than just firefighting, we do a lot more than that in terms of the operational world, as well as then our prevention, protection and community engagement work. It's making sure that the spaces that we have available actually match that range of activity that's undertaken across the estate. We are the enabler of all of that work to happen at our fire stations, and we need to start matching those spaces to match the work that we're undertaking. So that's what right space, place is talking about. And then finally as well, one of our key considerations being around efficiency. Everything that we do must be efficient, and that risk-based approach will feed into that, making sure that we're making a most efficient use of our resource, and making sure that any improvements that we make are with an efficiency hat on at the same time. What you'll also note from strategy is that it's the starting of our change of the footing by which we address the estate's condition going forward. So at the moment, our team are very much kind of reactive, response focused with the way that we address issues. What I'm looking to do is to move the team and the service into more of an asset management space. So we're looking ahead, we're planning for obsolescence, we're planning for refurbishments. By gathering that data and making sure that we have it available and actually having a proactive plan, we can then look for opportunities within that plan to either address something before it becomes an issue, or to group issues together on particular sites, and that's then the basis of a capital, major project, rather than I think at the moment a couple of our projects have kind of just, one issue has then led to another, and that's how we've got to a major project, rather than looking at the lifespan of a building. And typically, and the reason why the report references 25 years is that 25 years is kind of the average lifespan for a lot of the assets within a building. So a roof, for example, a boiler, electrical systems, 25 years covers that kind of lifespan. So where we'll get to is either we're addressing one particular item within a building during a period of time, or actually if we sweat an asset for a couple of years, it'll link up nicely with another set of assets that will be replaced at the same time, and that then turns into a major project. But I'm hopeful that will be putting us more on a proactive footing rather than the reactive footing that we've been on so far. It'll also allow us to help plan with the capital plan going forward, noting our sort of reliance on borrowing. It'll allow us to plan a bit more carefully around the borrowing aspect as well going into the future. So those are the key kind of thrusts and principles of the strategy. Appreciate it is a short strategy to take us through a period of time, but I do think it will then put us on a much better grounding to produce a strategy that will go for longer, backed up then by an asset management plan that runs for an even longer period of time, but also then supported by the annual plans, which will be the unit plan that the estates team will deliver to say this is what's happening in the next 12 months. The strategy then covers a wider period, and then the asset management plan goes even beyond that. So that's the main thrust of it. I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much for that, Patrick. I've just got a couple of things, really. Could you we've got this right place, right space, and I understand that's about flexible working. But do you want to just give us an idea of what that, if you like, that slogan or that means?
Yep, sure. So it's about matching the space that we've got to the work that we're doing and making sure that it's presented in a way that's supportive of our employees. At the moment, and from the condition surveys that you'll see the data's within the estate strategy as well, quite a number of our buildings haven't been sort of updated in a long period of time, and that on the surface level presents itself in the decor, which then contributes to, let's say, it's how the estates team contribute to the cultural piece, and how that then sets the tone of this is a professional working environment, this is what it's for. People understand how to use that space and how it can support them. So whether that's a space that we then provide that might be more accessible to members of the public for that bit of prevention and protection work that we do, whether it's a space that's suitable for our protection teams to undertake interviews, which are part of the legal process, or whether it's a flexible hub for our sort of Greenberg corporate members of staff to work out of, that's people know how to book those spaces, how to use them, and how to respectfully leave them in a condition for the next person to come and take it over. And it's just about kind of building that tone, making sure the right facilities are there for the right pieces of work that we're doing from that location, and that they've got the right look and feel to present us as professionally as we should be.
Thank you. That does make it a lot clearer. And I welcome, obviously, you coming into the role, the strategic view that we're now taking on properties. I know you said about the 25-year obsolescence, and that obviously applies for fixtures and fittings, but we're now looking towards a 50-year obsolescence for the actual buildings themselves, because 25 years seems a little short. So that seems sensible as well. Obviously, we're in progress to a certain extent with the Bath fire station. As we're here by the sea today, how are we getting on with the plans for Weston, given our slightly improved financial position, which may have had an impact on that?
Yeah, so the financial position hasn't necessarily changed the plan. What we discussed during a members' briefing this month is that we are, based on risk data, going to take a slight revisit to the relocation option, if for nothing more than to finally discount it as an option off the table. So we'll be working with a partner to identify what the value of that site actually is on the market, and the best way in which we could achieve most value from that site, and then understand any opportunities that are available within the North Somerset area where our risk is shifting slightly out of the town centre, but understanding whether there is a site available within that quite sort of niche area that we'd be looking at, and then whether the financial aspect of it actually stacks up. Now, if it does come to a point that the finances don't align, we will proceed with the planned refurbishment, and we're confident that we'll be able to deliver that quite quickly, based on the kind of scope that we've got available with the funds that we've got assigned to it.
Thank you, and we also do appreciate that you've inherited, to a certain extent, a range of properties that perhaps should have had a more strategic view over the years about refurbishments. I'll open up for questions. Robert?
Yeah, I just found that the chart on page 51 about condition data was really quite shocking, because it shows that a significant majority of our sites are bad or poor, and nothing's better than satisfactory. But does this include the new buildings, like the new fire station at Avon, and the refurbished one at Bedminster? Are they still not in that top grade? And also, can you tell me what's the one site that's condition D?
Yeah, sure. So just to kind of clarify the gradings quickly, so that the top grading, an A grade, under the standard way that condition surveys are undertaken, it is incredibly hard to get to an A rating. Pretty much after a couple of months of a building being built, it will be in that B band, just because of even scuffs on the wall can take it down from an A to a B quite quickly, and that is a national standard that's applied to the methodology for sort of condition rating. So it is challenging, and I appreciate we have got some buildings in there that have been refurbished quite recently, but it's quite quick to get down to a B. A B is still satisfactory, so that is you'll go into the building. There's no major defects with it. Even minor defects are very limited, and you are limited to kind of cosmetic defects rather than kind of actual building functionality defects. In terms of the sites and the ratings that we've got, Weston is the site that falls into the D rating. That's predominantly driven by the cabins that we have in the yard where our prevention protection team operate out of. That building is far beyond life expectancy, and we have contingency plans available as and when that building does become untenable for those teams. The final point that I would make on that sort of condition data is that in the last few months, I've been engaging with the National Fire Chiefs Council. We have a National Fire Chiefs Estate Group, which I'm part of. And there was a survey that was undertaken partly through central government, partly through National Fire Chiefs, to assess the state of the estate nationally. Our data and our results broadly matches up with the national picture. So the backlog that we have, the investment that we have available, and the condition of our buildings is commensurate with the picture across all fire services across the entire nation, unfortunately. We're all in the same boat, effectively.
Thank you. Other questions? Raj.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this report says that this was prepared for 10 years, basically, and we are still in the middle of midway through. Do you have recognized that it's only some parts of it that needs to be updated, or we have to rewrite the whole report again?
So the paper that I've prepared for today is a complete top-to-bottom rewrite, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, as my fellow councillors raised the question on page number 51, conditions of the building, I'm surprised that it can fall from A to B very quickly, even the new buildings. But does this refer to with respect to the energy performance of the buildings, or is just the general overall condition of the buildings?
So the A to B is just about kind of cosmetic features. When you get from B to C and then into D, you are then looking at the functionality of the buildings, and some of it falls down to efficiency. So they will have identified, for example, that some of our heating equipment is way beyond life expectancy, so it will be running at a less efficient rate.
So I can see the more capital expenditure coming into picture in a few years, coming years.
Yeah. What this will do in terms of gathering that asset management plan will give us line of sight of what that capital investment should look like. There will still be the option of the authority and the service to try to prolong the life of some of those assets beyond what would normally be expected, and that is kind of public sector practice. We do try and use things for as long as we can beyond normal life expectancies. But I do think it will also be really valuable information for our conversations with central government and beyond around the funding going forward, and around the realities of if we don't secure a different funding model or an improved funding model, that the impact will be that these works won't be achievable, and therefore there will be potentially a direct
impact. We need to be proactive on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's clear there's some work to do, I think, to make sure that national understanding is there, because it's clearly a national issue. It's a really good report. It's also good to see the progress we're making on decarbonisation as well. So it's really good to see that that really solid downward trajectory for the trend in terms of non-sustainable heat and energy that we're using. On the condition data, I'd find it helpful to actually see what's B, what's C, and what's D. So if that could be circulated, that would be really useful to understand. I think I've just got questions that obviously the investment that's there is the investment you've got available to you, and I know that that's still creating pressures, but it'd just be good to understand where else we need to consider investment in the longer term should more funding become available.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Chair. Patrick, thank you for the report. Just a question on page 51, again with the condition data. 2.9 million backlog maintenance value and 8 million future maintenance costs. Is that over the course of this strategy or longer period than this?
So that was just over the that's over the period that the condition surveys assess, which is for some of the assets is a 25-year lifespan. So when I joined the service, the condition surveys were already kind of being undertaken, so there has been a minor lag in terms of my then ability to assess all of that data, get an understanding of actually the reality on the ground, and then produce a strategy. So there is a bit of a lag there.
Okay. So I kind of slightly missed the answer.
Sorry. Yeah.
Is it this strategy, or is it further on?
It's further beyond this strategy. Yeah. So it wouldn't be across the next 3 years. Yes, to provide reassurance.
That's reassuring, but it's obviously a worrying amount of maintenance still to take place. 10.9 million, 11 million. But as soon as the clock ticks over to the next month, effectively, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much, Patrick, for that. If I can ask members, we are asked to consider and approve the Fuller Straits Strategy Appendix 1. So I will propose that we do so. May I have a seconder? Robert? Thank you very much. Any votes against? Any abstentions? And all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried and approved. So we will now move to agenda item 10, which for this one item we're back on track with the numbering, and it's our continuous improvement report, and Ian is going to present on this one.
Thank you, Chair. My report before you today is the regular quarterly update on the progress against our 2023 HMI inspection report. The context for this report today is that we have another full inspection underway at the moment, which I will come on to a bit later in the paper. But just sticking with the 2023 report for a moment, we have 6 recommendations of the original 20 that are still open. One of those relates to prevention, and the other 5 relate to our values and culture calls of concern. So the one around prevention is really concerned with the level of resources undertaking prevention activity, and that's both within the prevention team and also with our whole-time crews as well. We've undertaken some extensive data collection over a number of months, looking at productivity and activity on our whole-time stations, and a meeting took place last month to review that. I don't have the detailed outcome of that meeting today. There have been meetings taking place this month around the outcome, and there will be wider communication across the service next month. So I'll be able to update you on the outcome of that at the next meeting. What I can tell you is that whole-time operational crews have increased the number of home fire safety visits that they undertake in the current financial year compared to the previous year, and they have also begun to increase post-incident activity around prevention, and also in the plan for the new financial year is reviews of previously visited high-risk home fire safety visits. In addition to all of that, there's a data-led business case for extra resources in the prevention team coming forward for consideration next month. So again, I'll be able to update you at the next meeting. There's been a significant amount of work undertaken to address the 5 recommendations in the Values and Culture Calls of Concern. In addition to that, we have a comprehensive people, culture and leadership strategy, which there's a link in the report, and which Louisa Roger has got an update for you later on in the agenda, so I won't steal her thunder with any of that. There is a senior sponsor for the programme, which is the Chief Fire Officer, and we have 2 directors as accountable officers, and progress around that programme will be reported to members regularly too. Moving on to the areas for improvement, we have 32 of those. Originally there were 31. In the latest revisit, HMI moved one of the recommendations to an area for improvement, so the count has increased by 1. The details of progress against all of those are contained in Appendix 1, which is the progress tracker. There have been a number of closeout reports that have come forward to the Internal Improvement Board since we last met, and I've set out the details of the areas that they cover in the report. It does mean that all of the areas for improvement in the protecting the public through fire regulation diagnostic have now been signed off as complete by that board. 5.14, there's a table which shows the number of areas for improvement at each stage. So we now have 8 that have been signed off by the board. We have 11 where the work has been deemed by the owner to be complete, but has yet to be assured through the governance process, and we have 13 areas for improvement that are still in progress. So the other thing to mention with areas for improvement is that they only get considered by HMI at a full inspection. So unlike with recommendations where they look at those during revisits, they will only close these down as part of the full inspection. So we're in a position at the moment where obviously we're still working to progress those through to completion and sign off, but we do have an inspection ongoing at the moment. So we'll continue to push with these improvements, but we will get a full picture of how we're doing around these areas for improvement, initially in April and then fully in June. So, as I mentioned, we've got a full inspection happening at the moment. That commenced on the 15th of December. There was 4 weeks of pre-inspection work prior to that, and that was the provision of key documents and data as part of the national sort of list, and a workforce survey as well. So the service submitted around 120 documents as part of that initial sort of data gather. And in terms of the workforce survey, some really good news here. We had 322 members of staff that completed the survey. That's just a little over a third of staff in total, and a 40% increase on the number of people that engaged with the last inspection survey. So that's very positive. And I know from discussions with our service liaison lead and other colleagues around the country that on-call survey responses are always a challenge, and there was a significant improvement in the number of people from our on-call crews engaging as well. So that was fantastic. We also, this time round, we had a specific comms and engagement plan for the survey, and I think that's really helped to reach more people. There was improved messaging, and we really want to get the point across that every voice mattered, and I say that's been very successful. There's 2 weeks of face-to-face activities as part of the inspection. 1 week has already taken place. That was last week. There's a bit of a lull this week while they kind of look at all of the information and stuff that they've gathered from last week, and preparing for the week ahead. So the coming week will be mainly station visits and focus group meetings, and that's all across our workforce. So that's whole time and on-call stations, that's meeting with our network chairs, non-ops staff, station managers, etc. So that's the second week of face-to-face, and then in the week that follows that, there's around 10 meetings with heads of department, and that all finishes with a meeting with Chief Fire Officer at the end of that week. Then there's another sort of lull in terms of activity for us. There will be a hot debrief on the 6th of March, so that's really kind of the emerging findings from the inspection. And then we will get an embargoed draft report sometime in April, excuse me, and that's for fact and accuracy checking. So we will have a look at that, we'll send that back. That then goes through an internal process with HMI, and the final report is expected to be published sometime around June 2026. So it's quite a long period before we actually find out what the outcome of that inspection is. But as I say, in the meantime, we will continue to push ahead with the improvement work, and there will be, depending on the timing, another update on this round before we get the embargoed letter. But what I would say, because it's embargoed, I won't be able to share the outcome of that with you until publication. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ian. And just looking at item 5.20, to report back to everybody that we did have a meeting with the new HMI Catherine Stone, OBE. Her history includes having worked on the Parliamentary Standards Committee in the Houses of Parliament, and she investigated a former Prime Minister at least 3 times. So you can make your own assumptions as to who that was. So I'm sure she's more than capable of inspecting us thoroughly. But we had a robust and frank discussion. We were open and honest. Several officers here were also at that meeting, and I felt it went really well. And we got across the journey that we've been on as a fire service. And again, we got some enthusiastic feedback from Catherine. I had a follow-up meeting with her, a one-to-one after that as well. And I think we'll work well together. So I'll open up for questions anyway. Tom?
More just a brief comment rather than the question. I just observed since I joined the Fire Authority in 24, it's quite clear how significant progress has been made. So I just want to place on record my thanks to everyone, particularly all the officers and all the staff across the organisation for the work you've done. And obviously it'll be interesting to kind of see what the next report looks like, what that identifies in terms of progress, what that identifies in terms of other areas we'll need to then spend some time looking at. And I look forward to seeing that report when that's available.
Thanks, Tom. And I'll echo those comments and just say that I think we've got a set of officers now, both Grey Book and Green Book, that really do represent the service well. Having worked in the private sector all my life before I became a councillor, I have to say they're incredibly non-public sector-y. And I'll just leave it at that, but by saying that I find them very effective, and I'm confident that we're all going in the same direction, which is nice. So, do we have any other questions? Paula.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to respond, really. Thank you for your comments. We really appreciate it. But we are committed to continuous learning, and we've learnt ourselves from the inspection and some of the outcomes, and it was to really give assurance that our approach to any outcomes for future inspections will be slightly different as well. You notice we changed our approach midway through from quite granular actions to more sort of overarching themes, and I think one of our learnings is around looking at more the systemic causes of some of our issues. So we discussed in SLT, the service leadership team, yesterday how we'll maybe look to use feedback loops and really dig down, and we'll just continue to evolve on how we learn and how we apply learnings next time. But thank you for your comments, they are appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paula. If there's no other comments or questions, we've been asked to scrutinise the content of the report and to note the progress of the full inspection, which is currently underway, and I think we've done that, so that's good. Now back to the agenda, and we're now going to agenda item 12 instead of 11. 11 we will do after 12. So, Culture Change Implementation Manager, and the subject is the update on Culture Change. And Louisa is going to present on this one.
Thank you. So yes, this is a progress against the HMI cause of concern and areas of improvement, and it's for scrutiny and to make any recommendations. So this is looking at the last quarter. We've launched the People, Culture and Leadership programme, which was against the People, Leadership, Culture strategy that you looked at, that is launched now on the website, which you approved. In this sort of tail end of 2025 to 2026, we've been looking and setting up the governance, and the next bit is 2026-27, so ready for our next meeting, being able to really kind of look at that programme in minute detail around risks, benefits and the KPIs. So the scope of the programme is to move from that narrative of unclear priorities and unhealed organisational wounds to a future of more inclusive leadership and honest conversation being the norm. So our staff have already begun to experience this through a really proactive approach to feedback loops, so monthly meetings with Keeping Us Connected, which is where we go out to staff and we work at different locations, but all of SLB present on that, and we've had some really high engagement with around 98 views at the time, and then you're talking that some of those are whole watches, and then a further 91 views post meetings. That's sort of like the first one, and then the second one is around those numbers too. So the engagement is really high, and then we've got a feedback loop where all of People, Culture and Leadership Committee are able to go out and kind of capture information with those one-to-one conversations with staff. There's also open conversations about co-creating the future. So I mentioned last time around the control work that we've done, sort of specific to that staff group based on the report that we had, and moving them through us with that change. A real kind of live example of this is how we've approached the staff awards. So again, in co-creation with 100 staff across the service, asking them, what do you want to be celebrated? And looking to making sure those rewards were kind of covered all of staff, across all staff groups, which was the feedback that we had, and making sure that they were fair. But those categories, which we'll be able to, report on those awards next time because it's happening in February, those categories align completely with the core code of ethics organically. So it really shows how, our staff are looking to work within those core code of ethics. So governance that has been set up, you've got the Chief Fire Officer, who's a senior sponsor, who is the visible kind of, authority right at the top. He's looking to kind of accelerate. We've got senior accountable officers across organisational development and people services. And then involved in that committee or steering groups, we're just working on building in that engagement from staff representation. We've got some staff representation already there. We've got that feedback loop coming in, as I say, coming into that meeting about what is actually being said, those lived experiences on the ground coming in each quarter. But we're making sure that those voices are really alive on that. So part is that using, so our ICAL allies, which I mentioned last time, but they're a grassroots really allyship that's been developed, where you've got 40% of 40 people across staff sort of signed up, but they represent diversity across the service. They represent all levels of leadership. So it has real kind of grassroots energy around it, and we just want to make sure that those individuals are involved in the decision making. So to sign up to those iCare allies, you can sign up to a certain number of protected characteristics that you're interested in supporting, accelerating. It might be that you're part of those protected characteristics. It might be that you're passionate or understand a lot about it, as well as sort of the mental health agenda. So it gives us a really great tool and group of people that we can kind of engage with regularly. So the programme has been built around the 4 pillars, which are in line with the NFCC 4 pillars around people, culture and leadership. But under each of those, you'll see we've got, with an attached paper, the 12 priorities. You'll see a little asterisk against some of them, which show the ones that are catalyst priorities, basically explaining that if we don't really focus on those, then we're not going to achieve the rest. So was quite live with the conversation that we were talking about earlier around one of them about growing insight through data-driven decision-making and understanding what's working, where interventions are required. As I said, the next stage of us is really sort of, we've got a people dashboard, but for you to be able to support us, to be able to analyse those KPIs in a lot more, in a really sort of detailed way with us. So that thing about sort of understanding about how many people have sort of declared their ethnicity or disability throughout the service is working on programmes, so leaders can really normalise that sort of, you know, opportunity to be able to sort of categorise and sort of understand the importance of it, and that recruitment detail again around sort of really understanding what the makeup of our organisation are and how that compares. We've got this on the people dashboard, it's just bringing it to your eyes about how that compares particularly across like-minded organisations in the fire and rescue service nationally. So there's also looking at sort of attrition, sickness and well-being. What we need to make sure that we capture sight of within all of this data that we'll be kind of presenting you is really, you know, how people feel within culture. So we'll be able to bring that through on our surveys, and so we're making sure that we're being really adapted to that as we're working through our programme. There's been some sort of key decisions that have happened as a result of some of the insight that we've gotten throughout our service. So one is that moving to the core code of ethics and leading with core code of ethics. There was confusion with our staff where we had our core code of ethics and we had our service values. They were very similar, and there's been some instances where our values had been sort of weaponised, and and there was also the fact that the core code of ethics was we've been leading on it with a lot of our training. So there was feedback from staff that there was a desire to kind of move and lead forward the core code of ethics, and so that was decided by SLT and agreed on October 2025. There was also a paper looking at a service brand, sort of looking at not only looking at brand refresh as a whole, so covering identity, sort of linking in with those values, how professionalism should be demonstrated in everyday actions. So it's looking at a brand as a whole, a tone of voice, that kind of thing. But with that obviously came looking at that kind of really visible identity. So there was lots of conversations around sort of how we celebrate that history moving forward and that kind of thing, and what a kind of stag and the history behind a sea stag means and that kind of thing. So I think there is a desire to have a conversation about it, but it just felt that now wasn't the right time due to, you know, looking at the cost that that might entail. So I think that's something that it can be explored at a later stage. Another sort of key area of work has been the signing up with White Ribbon and Violence Against Girls action plans. So there's two that integral plans that support one another but do sort of slightly different things. I've been working with Bristol Women's Voice to kind of build that action plan and to make sure again it's really kind of live within our service, and we're sort of making sure that we communicate it so that it's not another action plan but it's really lived. So there's work that, you know, I hope you will see next time where you're able to really analyse those sort of KPIs with us, and that information is going to be there for you to help us sort of navigate the way forward. Any questions?
Thank you, Louisa, and it's fantastic news about being accredited. Sorry, my microphone was off. Being accredited with the White Ribbon Award and working with BWV, that's fantastic. You mentioned the phrase weaponised at one point. Sorry, could you just expand on that for me?
So some we have in our values, it was things like transparency, and sometimes that was weaponised in relation to people feeling that that we weren't transparent enough, or also the word courage people didn't quite understand. So it sort of like was courage in the nature of sort of what we do as firefighters, but courage can come from a very different place as well. So it was where that where sometimes things like people would shut down or sort of shut down dissent and that kind of thing by using the terminology of transparency, but actually, you know, it's sort of like how that words are used, and it wasn't sort of really lived and explained from an individual's perspective. And I think that's where we want to really bring the core code of ethics alive, just making sure that it's understood how it really works in real life for a lot of our firefighters and corporate staff.
Thank you. I'll open up for questions. No? Okay. Oh, Annie.
It's a comment, not a question, but to say thank you very much for the work that you're doing. And also, it was really good to see the work you were doing with Bristol Women's Voice and Sari, and the briefing that we had a couple of weeks ago. That was very appreciated and very important as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Annie. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. Just to echo what Annie said about Surrey and Bristol Women's Voice, that was really excellent. Fantastic members briefing. Just control shift engagement. Saw that in the control shift. What is that?
Yes, sure. So control, let me just get all the information. So SHIFT stands for Support, Hear, Include, Facilitate and Transform. And it was an engagement that happened after the external review took place. And over a period of time, the inclusion team took control on a journey. So took a team from sort of different groups within control to really take them on a journey around sort of their action plans. They used sort of analogies around sort of how culture works on a kind of almost a plane journey, and how they were the pilots in this and how they could move it along. And it might, we might have a little bit of up and down along the way, but how do we get to our destination? But essentially it enabled them to form a tangible action plan of which, some of which they had control over and some of which they could really kind of explain from their experience, what shifts that they needed to make. And there's been a lot that's happened in that area. And within the initial report, they were asked, what their experience was. Over 40% experienced their sort of workplace experience was 3 or below. However, after that, an engagement lasting around 5 months, the responses were sort of mid to high range, so 7, 8s and 9s, which just shows in that sort of small snapshot it made a real kind of impact, being in control of and co-creating their future together. So that's the stuff that we really want to kind of escalate throughout the service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, well, we've been asked, the recommendations are that we scrutinise the content of the paper and make any recommendations or suggestions to support the service, and I think we've done that. So we'll now move back to agenda item 11, which is efficiencies and savings, and Lee will be presenting on this one.
Well, good morning, just about still. So I'm here to update you on the Efficiency Savings Programme, which is 109 in your packs, and this is to update the committee on the progress against the 7 options that were agreed in February this year, of last year, and our progress moving forward as we come to the end of the financial year. We'll also update on the progress against the Home Office Productivity and Efficiency Plan. So 2.1 asks the committee to scrutinise the progress of the 7 E&S options against predicted savings and make recommendations for improvements. So taken down to section 3.2, it's worth noting here that there is an overview of the predictions and the 7 options. It was decided when the actual final budget was produced that the savings would actually total 505k as opposed to the initial 515, and that is what we've been targeted to move through and deliver. So going down to section 4 and 4.1, there is an appendix below attached that gives a financial update of each of the options and tracks through the year. And also there's a narrative around each one of the options of what they're actually achieving and how we are achieving that moving forward. So I think probably better to give a high-level overview of where the actual project is overall as we're coming into those final few months. It's also worth noting, just due to the deadlines of the report, I was unable to include December's figures into that, but we have got those as well if we need to talk about those. So the overall RAG rating for the programme is amber, but based on the current performance, if the monthly savings are sustained at present level, the programme is forecasted to deliver the predicted annual savings. Now, I've kept the rating as amber due to the fact that we are quite reliant on one of our high performers, which is the crew-based training, and I was reluctant to deviate from going to green overall, just because if we see a dip in that might influence where we are. The other high performance are standbys and detached duties. Even though they started late in the programme, they are outperforming consistently every month, and we are averaging roughly 47k or £47,000 of savings every month, and moving through into December now, with 3 months left, we've got about £117,000 left, so we are on track to deliver against that, which is good news. Just to update on the Productivity and Efficiency Plan, which is a yearly plan that reports back to the Home Office and looks at various areas of efficiencies within the service. I'd like to echo what Ian had mentioned about the home fire safety visit, which is mentioned in 4.12, and we are predicted of an excess of 3% home fire safety delivery increase and productivity of our workforce at a whole-time station. That remains on track, and with education visits as well, remaining on track to perform, and we are approximately 75% complete of the plan. So yeah, that's my update, and I'm open for any questions.
Thanks for that, Lee, and thanks for the report. It's very clear. For the outstanding savings that we've still got to make, although may I commend the service on the savings it's made already, 341,000 I think. We've still got 164,000 to go. What would you suggest the timeline to achieve that, and do you think that we will achieve the full 505?
Yes, we are on track to achieve the 4505. Like I said, I'm unable to put December's figures in. December's figures are very similar to November's figures. We're averaging around 47k per month. The last 3 months to go, and we've got 117 left as of this month. So we are on track to deliver by the end of the financial year.
Good news, thank you. I'll open up for questions. And I can see I'm swamped by hands. Okay, brilliant. So I think you've got off lightly there, Lee. But we have scrutinised the progress and made our recommendations for improvements. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next item, which is agenda item 13, the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report. And Claire is kindly going to present on that one on behalf of our Statutory Finance Officer, Verity, who's not able to be here today. And I think you had to fight through...
Yeah, the M4 was against me this morning.
Yes.
My delay.
And ironically, it was a fire, I believe, as well.
To be honest, I wasn't that fussed about what it was, but it did take me a moment, so I'm here.
Thank you for making it all the way.
Substitution. So obviously we've got two papers today. I'll run through the revenue one first. My intention is just to pick out a few of the key changes from the last report that you saw in October. Obviously this is based on more up-to-date information, so this is as at the end of November. As you can see, overall we're projecting a small underspend, which is really reassuring based on all the work that everyone's been doing in order to meet those efficiencies. And if you look at the table in the appendix, I'm just going to, like I say, pick out a few key changes that we made. So the first change that we've made is within the income. We've got a slight under recovery, and that's because of the rates reconciliation that comes through quite late in the year. So that's just an adjustment to one of the grants that we receive. But then as we move further down, we can see in terms of utility costs, we're actually now going to be underspent on those. That's based on updated projections from Patrick's team and also what we've spent year to date. So that is a benefit to us. The biggest change that you'll see is the communications and ICT line. We've got obviously quite a significant underspend there. That's because of the change in terms of the milestones that we're going to reflect for the mobilisation project. So where there's been a slight delay in the signing, that's meant that we haven't actually seen all of the costs that we were expecting to. And what you'll also see further down is an adjustment through the transfers to and from reserves, because what we were expecting to do is to bring in some reserves to net off against some of those milestones. Also within that other cost section, you'll see a reduction in terms of our capital financing cost, and that's because we've been able to push back our need to borrow in this financial year. We're hoping that that will continue, or that it will be very small in terms of what we do need to borrow. And then also you can see that the efficiencies line has moved out of there. So we're now showing that as a variance because what's happened is it's now reflected in all of the lines above where we would expect to see those savings. So that's really all I was going to say, apart from obviously what's already within the paper. So happy to take any questions.
Councillors, do we have any questions on that first paper? No? Okay. Before we agree to scrutinise, we may as well just go straight on to agenda item 14, the capital programme update, and then we'll deal with them as one.
Thank you. So similar approach, I'm just going to pick up where we've got some changes. As you can see, the forecast has reduced from where we were projecting in October overall, and that's because again what we've done is we've realigned in terms of the realistic expectation for the Bath project, which is our biggest spend in terms of premises. We've also delayed a number of items within the fleet budget that was allocated as part of our continued work around capital prioritisation through the capital prioritisation and steering group. To see what actually is the best way to allocate capital across the service and what would be appropriate in terms of what the service needs. So that overall has meant that we're looking at an outturn of, bear with me, sorry, 5.5 million overall. The bulk of that is within our premises, and like I said, there's a significant amount there on the Bath project that's already underway. But it does mean, like I say, that we've been able to hold off in terms of new borrowing for this financial year, which gives us a benefit not just in 25-26, but also in 26-27 because of the way that the borrowing and the repayments are structured. I wasn't necessarily going to talk about the balance sheet or the indicators very much. There aren't any significant changes. Like I said, and you have got text within the appendices about what those variances are. So again, happy to take questions, and if I can't answer, I will take them away for Verity.
Thank you, Claire. Questions? No? Okay. Well, we are asked to review the annual actual spend and full year forecast for agenda item 13 and for agenda item 12, if I can just find it again. Excuse me. 13 and 14, yeah, you're right, sorry. I'm getting confused with the numbers because we changed a lot of them around today. So, agenda item 13, we were asked to review the actual spend and full year forecast spending position against the 25-26 revenue budget, as shown in Appendix 1. And agenda item 14 on the capital programme update, we are asked to review the 25-26 current position shown in Appendix 1 and to consider the key issues within the updates provided, to review the summary balance sheet presented in Appendix 2 and consider the commentary provided in paragraph 5.11 to 5.13, and to scrutinise the updated prudential and treasury management indicators presented in Appendix 3 and associated commentary provided in this report. And I think we've done that, so thank you very much for stepping in at last minute's notice, Claire. So we will move on to agenda item 15, which is the update on the Seven Park PFI, and Patrick is going to present again on this one.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon this time. So here today just to provide an update on Seven Park, as we will be doing at PLC meetings going forwards. In the gap between our last meeting and this meeting, the report's main focus has been on collaboration with NISTA, who are the National Infrastructure and Service Transformation Authority. They own the relationship between public bodies that entered into PFIs with their SPVs, and they're responsible for assurance to central government around that. So I think we've covered this before, but just for context, they provide reporting back to HM Treasury on how PFIs are performing. They're also they also carry out health checks of all of the PFI contracts as well. So as we've approached expiry, and we're now just over 2 years away from the expiry of our PFI, we've engaged with them. They've understood the situation that we're in with our PFI, and that our PFI was one of the earlier contracts to be signed, and so therefore has quite a few challenges within it. And the crux of the last couple of months has been basically that they've visited Seven Park with me. They've interviewed myself. They've met with Babcock, who are the service provider, and they've met with the other two fire services who are party to the PFI contract to understand how's the contract being managed, how's it being run, and how is the expiry looking at the moment. The report notes that after that visit, we were anticipating that a report would be delivered. Between writing this report and today, that report has now landed. I'm not going to go through it today because it's not included in your papers. It will come to the next one. But what I can give you today is the assurance that following that report, NISTA have confirmed that they will continue to support us through the expiry process. And at the moment, the way that that's manifesting itself is with the provision of 2 associates that NISTA have employed themselves, so it's not a cost to the service. But those associates are there to help guide us through the expiry process. They are PFI experts. They were involved in the writing of a lot of the PFI contracts. They've also managed, one of the associates in particular has managed the closure of 800 PFI contracts for the DWP, so they have expiry experience in buckets, which is good news for us because we do need the support, but they are going to be there to help us with that, which is good news. So just going back to my notes there, in terms of programme, we had and have always had the contractual dates within our strategy and in the timeline that's included in the strategy. What we haven't done yet and will become apparent as part of the NISTA report is pulling together our kind of final programme with all the activities that we need to do between now and expiry and beyond. Now that we have the report from NISTA and they've picked up on some of the ambiguities, even in the dates that are involved in the contract, we can start working through that with them to come to a final programme. So what I'm expecting in the kind of looking forward section of the report is to bring to you, hopefully at the next PRC meeting, our programme to set out how we will manage the process between now and taking over the site. On the design aspect, we have continued to gather the results from the staff survey that was undertaken in October. We've also undertaken a number of workshops, which was with the heads of department for across the service who'd be interested in the headquarters site. They were also encouraged where they needed to bring along members of their team as well, so there's a kind of a double report in there in terms of the staff survey and an opportunity for them to come to the workshops. That's all in process at the moment of being pulled together into a report from the consultants. The result of that report we're expecting will be the themes and aims that the design should aim to achieve and resolve from the staff survey of what they want from headquarters going forwards. Alongside that, we've got a training review being undertaken at the moment, and the results of the early things that training review is going to focus on will support our understanding and our allocation of space within the building for our training function. I think one of the things that we're keen to get across to all stakeholders is that the Seven Parks site primarily has been and will continue to be our training site, and the opportunity is the remaining space that will now be vacant from the other two services not using that site, and that's where the HQ opportunity comes from. So we have still got to just undertake a due diligence process to make sure that we're not giving away space within that building that the training function needs before we say definitively this is the floor area that HQ are going to occupy, and the results of the staff survey say that we should be looking in this direction to provide these facilities. So that's how it all meshes together, hoping that will come together nicely in the next few months, and some of those results from the staff survey can be brought to the next PRC for your review and understanding. So in terms of looking forward to the next report, I'll hopefully be bringing the information from the staff survey, the programme from our activity with NISTA, but also bringing along key decisions which the senior leadership team are currently considering and have considered yesterday and provided direction on. So the first two that will be coming, and there may be more that join that between now and the next meeting, but is around the direction for control and the SWCDC for the project, and the direction on the headquarters, sort of where will it be question for the service going forward. But those two will come to the next meeting, and we'll set the direction from that point on for those two questions. That's the end of my summary for the report. Have you got any questions for me?
Thank you, Patrick. That's clear as usual from you, and whilst it is, I appreciate, a very challenging project, quite an exciting one as well.
Yes,
so
definitely.
It's good. Tom?
It's reassuring to hear we've got some more independent expertise in and the breadth of that experience. It sounds reassuring from our perspective that you're going to have that support in place. It's going to obviously be quite a complex exit. So look forward to receiving further updates in coming months.
Thanks, Tom. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. I assume there's no risks incurred from because the recommendations are just to kind of effectively scrutinise your report. So the fact that the report couldn't be brought to this meeting, there's no risks between now and April 23rd, I think is the next PRC.
Yeah, so
from us not meeting in the time.
Yeah, in terms of sort of actions and activities that need to occur between now and then, the results of the report very much are focused on pulling together that plan. So there aren't any kind of contractual dates that will lap between now and then. There aren't either sort of any other significant risks that would need mitigating between now and then. So I think, yeah, be assured on that. Yeah.
Hold you to that.
Thank you. And whilst our financial position has improved. I'd just like to make the committee aware that the Chief Fire Officer has written asking for more, a bit like Oliver. We've had some, but and that's regarding this project and the transformation required and the extra costs. We'll see. But I do know that if you don't ask, you don't get. So it's worth a shot. So we are asked purely to note the contents of this report and then make any recommendations or suggestions. And I think we've done that.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you. Agenda item 16 is a small paper from Tanya. The agree monitor the procurement forward plan 250k to 1 million as at 16th January 2026.
Thank you, Chair. This is your usual update from me about what is in our pipeline. As you would expect, it goes into several years. The items in yellow are potential items that will come to this board for decision. As Claire mentioned earlier, there's a lot of work going around about vehicles and that side of things, so it'd be interesting to see how that changes the pipeline, or if it changes it. As of yesterday, the insurance requirements has been awarded and completed, so we have new insurance in place from April, but that's all done and dusted now as well. Or, as always, happy to take questions, but don't often receive them.
Thank you, Tanya. And I always like to see vehicles being replaced, because that obviously means that I can potentially steal them for Ukraine, or we can send them to the Gambia. But yeah, I'll open for questions on this one, please. No? Okay. Robert.
Just ask what you mean by financial services at the bottom of the list. What financial services?
So is our current contract with Bristol City Council for supporting our finance team. They have a contract in place with us that expires in April this year, so we're busy negotiating and putting something together. They're in a quite unique position because we share our finance system with them, so it's very difficult for other suppliers to come in, but that's okay. So that's what that is.
Just because you wanted the questions.
I'm not sure I said that.
Welcome the questions, perhaps. The first line, rescue pumps under review. There's no kind of additional information there on
no.
where we were at.
Yeah, so I was anticipating, according to our timetable and working with the fleet manager, we had anticipated that coming very soon and potentially to this meeting, actually. I'm getting nods. But we need to do more work about what's needed, and there's some reviews going on more widely in the service about actually matching our vehicles to what I need. Because obviously, as you can imagine, some of those last for 10, 15 or more years. We want to make sure we're buying the right things before we come to this board and ask for them to be put forward. So yes, that's why it's under review, and certainly some of the others further down that aren't due until later. That's all part of that review. And I don't know, Paula, do you know when that paper might come here, or is that sort of a little bit more distant now?
Yeah, this is the fleet paper is provisionally booked for April, and I say provisionally because the work is still ongoing, but it is programmed for the next PRC presently.
Thank you both.
Thanks all. Raj, did you just have you? Okay. All right, I believe Paula would like to say something at this point.
Thank you, Chair. So we're just going backwards a little bit. I just asked the Chair if I could just make a note before we concluded, because when I was writing my notes for the gender pay gap paper, I realised I gave you the 2023 data around workforce statistics and then forgot to give you the 2025 data, which was the point of just showing the evolution. However, it's a lot of numbers and a lot of state statistics within those reports. So just to avoid me misquoting, if everyone's comfortable, if I give the links to Emma, we'll put them in the written minutes instead, if that would be okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. And so we'll move on to the final item, which is the date of the next meeting, and that is at on the 23rd of April at 10:30 as usual. And we'll be back in headquarters in Portishead for that one. So thank you very much for coming. We don't need to go into closed session because we dealt with the minutes earlier. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.